Coming live from Orlando, Florida, USA is our guest tonight. Welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through the industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Roy Nassau, Marriott Area VP retired, author of a very important book and speaker, and we'll be talking about what that important book is, and it will certainly tell us how to deal with annoying and irritating people. Welcome to the show, Roy.
Thank you, AJ. It's good to be here. I appreciate you inviting me to join you on your show.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome to the show. Welcome to India. A huge number of Indian audience will consume this particular podcast live as well as later on. And also, it's a global show, so it's going to a lot of other places. So first, to understand, Roy, after being in an industry, hospitality industry, you had your own experiences, and those experiences about people with people gave you deep insight into them. And then you came up with this book, and you met a lot of annoying and irritating people, good people, bad people. You meet them everywhere, but now you have come with a solution how to exactly deal with people like those, and they are everywhere, at home, outside, neighborhood, and especially in the workplace. So tell us a bit of background about how you came up to this book. How did you come up? If you shorten that word, PAFU.
PAFU. Yes. Well, AJ, I had a great career with Marriott International. I worked for Marriott Hotels for 44 years. And in my 44 years, I encountered thousands of people, both employees, managers, hotel owners, business executives, everything from the highest level C-suite to the frontline employees who take care of the customer. And I would say that the majority of people that I deal with or I dealt with are phenomenal, friendly, really great people. But everybody has a dark side, and I encountered a lot of behaviors in the workplace that could not be explained. And so when we couldn't explain it, we sort of came up with an acronym called PAFU. And I wrote a book. I'm going to show the book so that everybody can see it. This is the book that I wrote about how to deal with annoying and irritating behaviors that really make you say to yourself, what the hell is wrong with you? So the book describes a lot of details about the different behaviors that I encountered. Not all of them, because there's too many to list, but the main behaviors that in the workplace primarily, people will have behaviors that are annoying. And my definition of PAFU behaviors is when someone's behavior completely ignores the norm of what is considered reasonable and acceptable, it defies logic and common sense, and it disregards reason and rational thinking. So that's my definition of PAFU behaviors. And I want to just make sure it's clear that these are the behaviors that annoy coworkers. One example, and then I'll stop, but one example is people that interrupt others all the time. You can be in a meeting and I would be presenting and somebody would always interrupt my train of thought or whatever I was saying because they wanted to make their comments known, and they had a disregard for what I was saying. So they were interrupters, as we call them. And it's very annoying and irritating when people interrupt you all the time. So that's one example of a PAFU behavior.
Okay. So is there a way, have you described in your book exactly that if I am the jerk or if somebody else is a jerk, how would I know from others' behavior that it is sometimes it is not good, but actually he borders, or he is, it's a PAFU behavior. Or even looking at myself, how would I know that I am a jerk? How do you know that?
Well, that's a great question because a lot of people lack self-awareness. So they might not know they're behaving in a way that is annoying other people. So you have to tell somebody that their behavior is bothering you. So the first thing that you have to do is you have to validate that their behavior is actually PAFU. Because sometimes when something is bothering you, you may just have a little annoyance that other people aren't bothered by it. So it's important that you talk with your friends or your coworkers to say, "Hey, Roy has this irritating behavior, at least to me," and you tell them what it is. And if other people say that doesn't bother me at all, then you might be PAFU yourself because you're easily bothered by other people's behavior. So you have to validate that their behavior is annoying. Then, if you validate it, the second thing and most important thing you have to do is you have to ask permission to give someone feedback. So you might say, "Hey, I have something important that I would like to talk to you about. Would that be all right?" Or you could say, "You have something that bothers me, and I need to tell you because you need to know so you can either change your behavior or help me understand." So the asking permission is important because A, it builds trust. So people can trust you that you're not just blurting it out. And B, when you ask permission, it sort of engages the other person to be uh, more listening to you to say, okay, whatever he has to say must be important. So those are the first two steps in giving someone feedback. And then I outline in the book process for giving feedback, and I'm happy to go through it quickly
Yes,
because
yes.
oh, okay. So I use an acronym to give feedback. And that acronym is to build a bridge. And the bridge is the acronym to help you remember how you give feedback. So the first step in giving feedback is to be benevolent. Being benevolent simply means that you're caring, that you want to help the other person and you want to listen to them and you want to understand them. So when you're benevolent, it shows that you care, and that helps build trust. Uh, the second is R, bridge. So R is be relevant. So it's very important that when you're discussing the behavior with the other individual, that you stay relevant to their behavior. Do not wander off. Do not talk about a whole bunch of other things. You have to stay on point. The R is, the I is informative. Be informative. So this is a critical point because you want to tell somebody their behavior and you want to have specific examples, and you want to be able to describe to the other person what it is that they're doing, and here, most importantly, how their behavior affects you, meaning how does their behavior make you feel? So that's be informative. The D is be direct. It's very important that you stay on point and you be direct. A lot of people, and I was this way when I was a younger manager, I loved to sugarcoat the issue because I didn't want to be that aggressive or assertive, or I didn't even want the other person to dislike me. So I would sugarcoat the issue, and that when you sugarcoat, it sort of blinds you to what the real issue is. So be direct, rip the band-aid off, and tell the person exactly what their behavior is that's annoying you. G is for be genuine. So be yourself. Don't try to act false or be somebody you're not. So you have to be who you are. And when you act like you are, then you're building trust again. Trust is an important part. And the last acronym is E, which is be engaging. You have to listen. You have to respond to what they say. You have to clarify and understand. So you have to engage with the person in the conversation. So building a bridge is the best way to deliver feedback to someone who has annoying and irritating behaviors.
Right, right. Now, Roy, is PAFU behavior uh, like almost the same as being toxic or toxic behavior, or are they two different things? How would you see that, understand it, or is it there is something overlap?
Well, it could overlap, but toxic behavior is definitely um, a a behavior and a personality that you should never ignore, and that usually falls into the category of how would I describe it, of intolerable behavior as an employee. If you have a toxic behavior, most of the time a company would terminate an employee for harassment. They would terminate an employee for if they were stealing, or if they were really doing something that was disruptive to the organization, that made the organization look bad. If you were stealing, but those are toxic behaviors that are not tolerated. And most companies have a human resource policy that somebody is immediately terminated for those types of behaviors. The types of behaviors I'm talking about um, are behaviors of the way people act as individuals and towards others. That is how would I describe it? It's the way people would make other people feel. So if I'm yelling at you, that might make you feel inferior, or would bother you, or you don't want to be treated that way. So people that yell or scream, you have to tell them that their yelling and screaming is bothering you, and that would be more of a PAFU behavior. Remember, PAFU behavior is typically illogical, irrational, and doesn't have any common sense. So that's the definition. So if someone is behaving in a way that just doesn't make sense to you, that's a good indication that it's PAFU. And it's not, again, it could be toxic because you shouldn't behave that way. But I'm talking about the behaviors in a workplace that usually do not go addressed by human resources or by management. Sometimes the boss is
Yeah.
PAFU, and this feedback method gives you a way and a method to talk to your boss and I did this with my boss once. I just simply asked my boss, would it be okay if I gave you some feedback? And that opened the door up to a great conversation I had with my boss about the things that he did to make us feel a little small.
Okay, okay. You were in the hospitality industry, and that too for a long, long period. And how did you survive that? And amidst all these things, you were observing people from very, very close. Tell us a bit about that. How you accumulated all that wisdom along the way, and then came to this.
Well, I have to tell you, AJ, I was very blessed because I worked for Marriott International for 44 years. And Marriott International is one of the best companies, especially for employees. It's been on the Fortune Best 100 list for as long as Fortune has published that list. So you have to imagine that the vast majority of employees that I worked with in Marriott were great people, caring and supportive of one another. And so in my environment in Marriott, when we came across someone who was PAFU, it was actually unusual. So they stuck out like a sore thumb. However, that doesn't mean that those people had their behaviors addressed. Sometimes an employee can be a great employee, they contribute, they drive sales, or they're really great with the customers, but they're really bad with their coworkers. And so again, I wouldn't say we wouldn't tolerate. A lot of the times that was tolerated because they were such a good employee. But it wasn't until I realized that until we addressed the way people behaved, those people's behavior didn't support the Marriott culture of taking care of your employees, who will take care of the customers, and the customers will come back again and again, which is the ground foundational belief of Marriott International. So I took it upon myself, along with many other people, that if somebody's behavior didn't support the company culture, then we would have to give them some feedback to help them address their behavior. And when they didn't stay around too long. But most people would adjust their behavior because working for Marriott was a great thing, and people wanted to continue their career with Marriott. So, but there were a lot of people that I came across, not only employees, but business partners, other executives from other companies, and the same thing applied to them. We couldn't terminate people that didn't work for us, so we had to address their behavior, or their attitude, by being frank and being honest with them about how their behavior is affecting their relationship with Marriott. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, yes, yes. In that, and in fact, being from the hospitality industry, from the hotel line, you know, one thing that comes to my mind, Roy, is what about the guests? Because you guests have guests from all across the world, different cultures, different personalities, and different levels of PAFU behavior. How did you people, obviously you people were had that training being from that, Marriott group, but how did you actually deal with those behaviors when it actually came down to things at the ground level? What would you like to, this way a lot of people will get to understand, especially in the hospitality industry, which is opening up bit by bit after COVID.
So you want to know how we dealt with guests that were PAFU?
Yes, yes.
The good news is that if you work in the hospitality business, you have to have a lot of patience, and you have to have a pretty positive attitude. So every now and again, there would be an annoying guest who was PAFU. And I would say 95% of customers are outstanding and phenomenal. But the few that aren't, there's a couple of ways that we dealt with it. One was have a lot of patience, listen to the guest, let them vent. You apologize if we did something wrong to offend them or to bother them. And then hopefully we would calm them down and they would go on their way and be very happy. For those customers that were really had bad behavior or were annoying and to a point where they were disruptive to the staff, sometimes customers would actually yell at the employees. Well, that's not something that we would normally tolerate. So the employees were always instructed that if you had a customer who was unwieldy and you couldn't calm down, to always get the manager or to come and get me when I was a general manager of a hotel, and I would deal with the customer. And if a customer wouldn't calm down and was screaming and yelling and was disruptive to the organization, sometimes we would have to ask the customer to leave. We would help them perhaps get accommodations elsewhere where they might be happier. But we wouldn't really want the customer to create a scene and cause disruption to the business. So we would have to shepherd that customer away from the public area, talk to them in private. And again, as I said, some customers, very, very few, small percentage, if even more than 1%, we would have to say it might be best if you stayed somewhere else, because obviously we can't accommodate you. But that is very rare, and most customers will calm down when the employees are trained properly to deal with them And I would say Marriott employees, most employees in the hospitality industry know how to deal with customers who might go off a little bit.
Right. Now, Marriott is a great place. So obviously, no, it not only took care of its guests but also employees, and that's a great. That's why any annoying behavior would stand out. People would know and recognize this. But what about outside? Because did you, when you went outside and looked at how actually you came to the conclusion, because you spent 44 years at Marriott now, how did you come to know that outside also, beyond Marriott, a lot of people are suffering from PAFU? And that is where it led to this. You created this PAFU Nation. So I want to understand, how did this observation thing work? Because a lot of people work in Marriott, in the hospitality industry, but not everybody writes a book like this, insightful book like this.
Well, that's the fun part of PAFU. While I wrote the book with a focus on the workplace, certainly there are PAFU people and PAFU behaviors with your friends and your family and whoever else you encounter outside of work. At least with me and my family and friends, they understand PAFU because they're around me a lot. So we have no issue when someone, one of our friends, one of my friends or a family member is acting a little irrational. We have no problem calling them out and saying, hey, you are PAFU right now. And so when they know that we say you're PAFU, they calm down pretty quickly because while it's serious, using the word PAFU is a little bit more fun than calling someone a jerk or an idiot or something even worse. And it sort of calms the conversation down. Now, I can't speak for spouses because sometimes calling your spouse PAFU may not go over too well, but you can try as long as you go back to be informative and tell them what they're doing. That's PAFU. But if you just tell your spouse they're PAFU, that's not going to end well. So I wouldn't recommend you do that unless you had some really good discussion points that you could talk about in a calm way.
Right.
But the PAFU behavior is everywhere. I would also say everyone can be PAFU at any point in time because we're emotional as human beings, and we sort of will become PAFU and irrational when something is really bothering us. And so if you can recognize the PAFU behavior in others, that's a start to perhaps recognizing PAFU behaviors in yourself.
Right. And how is it? Is it too much in people, or is it at a limited level? Because a lot if it is to a great extent, that in an individual or person in authority, that it can not just destroy others' careers but their own also, and that is not very good. A lot of things keep on happening. We are in this some sort of a time and age where people can be very bad for other people, especially in workplaces.
Yes, that's a very serious and very true statement. A
And
challenge that
sorry to interrupt. That's where the great resignation. People are actually fed up of several workplaces.
that is true, and I would tell anybody who is working in an environment where the coworkers or the bosses are PAFU that you should leave that organization. And this is the best time to quit an organization that has PAFU behavior because there's so many jobs available that you can go work elsewhere. But it's if you have a boss who is PAFU or supervisors, if they're not willing to listen to your feedback and give them tell them how you feel about their behavior towards you and your coworkers, then that's not the right environment for you to work in. It's not the right culture, and you should leave that work and go find elsewhere. But you're right. PAFU behaviors from bosses are unfortunately widespread. And that is when you have to engage them with giving them feedback using bridge or leave the organization. So that's what my recommendation to people would be that are dealing with PAFU bosses or a culture that is PAFU. So,
Right.
yes.
Right, right. Tell us a bit about PAFU Nation. Exactly what does it mean? Is it a nation full of people suffering from PAFU, or is it a bit positive about it?
Well, PAFU Nation is the name of my company, but I named it PAFU Nation for that very reason that everybody can be PAFU at any point in time. So if we all recognize, embrace, and acknowledge that we can be PAFU, then we will be better off, because that's the start to a little bit more self-awareness and perhaps curtailing your PAFU behavior when you know you're behaving in a way that is irrational, illogical, or lacks a little common sense.
Right. And who is this book for, and where they can get this book from, Roy?
Well, thank you for asking. Right now, the book is available on Amazon.com. And if you just search either the book PAFU title or my name,
And you can also show it also, Roy.
Okay, thank you. So this book is available on Amazon.com under my name or under the title PAFU. It's easy to find. It's very inexpensive, so it's not a big deal. So that's where you can find the book. And the book is written for it's written for everybody, AJ, because most people have a job and most people need to understand how to engage effectively in their job. But it's written for people that might not have a job, because it's a fun read, and you might again recognize PAFU behaviors in your friends or your family, and then help them adjust their behavior so that they're a little bit more likable and lovable when they're not behaving in an annoying and irritating way. So that's who the book is for. Anybody and everybody, but hopefully it will help people in the workplace be a little bit more effective and enjoy their work environment a lot more.
Right. Perfect. My last question to you, Roy, is that now after this, in the hospitality industry for so many years and spent well, and now this book, what next for you? What is it that you seek now?
Well, I'm going to use my knowledge of PAFU and my book to both be a keynote speaker to organizations that might want a little bit more understanding of behaviors and how they disrupt the company and disrupt the company culture. And then I also offer a workshop, a half-day workshop, where we can sit together with a team. It's usually for a team that has to work together so they can understand how their behaviors affect their teammates. And by knowing that and addressing it, the team can be more productive, more effective, help the company generate better results, and ultimately create a more friendly, fun, and enjoyable work environment. That's the goal of the workshop.
Right. And how do people connect with you, especially, companies who want to get you as a speaker or get engaged with you for a workshop?
Well, the best way is to just go to my website, roynassau.com, and there's a way to send me an email through there to contact me. There's some clips in there of some of my speaking, and hopefully they can buy the book through my website as well, which links them to Amazon. But my website, roynassau.com, is the best way to contact me and get in touch.
Wonderful. On this note, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me. I wish you a happy and blessed day. Thank you.
Thank you. Same to you, Roy. Thank you.